All right, everybody. I'd like to welcome Gary Ma, the Chief Operating Officer, and Darren Smith, the VP of Product, to the Incubator. They work on Epik Prime, a revolutionary NFT platform that's looking to change the space in terms of gaming and NFTs by working with some of the top brands in the world to bring on new customers and new eyeballs to the actual platform. Now, on today's episode and today's interview, we're going to be talking all things NFT, how Epik got started, what separates them from some of their competitors, and we're going to be getting to know a little bit about Darren and Gary. And I'm excited for this. This is a morning for me. They're in Singapore, so they've been up a little bit. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Yeah, doing fantastic. Thanks for having us.
No problem. No problem. So let's get a little bit of, I touched on kind of your titles here, but do you want to give us a little bit of background on, who Darren is, who Gary is, so the listener can know a little bit more about you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, why don't I jump in there first, and then we'll leave Darren there to kind of shock everyone with his immense stories and background there. But this show might be a little bit more for the blockchain audience. So I've been, working in exposed to blockchain since 2013. So definitely kind of seen it grow through its, cycles and different phases, taking bumps and bruises along the way, as well as everyone has who's been in it long enough. And then computer science type of background. And, prior to, working with Epik, I was, working with some of the biggest brands and celebrity artists producing large scale ultra music style concerts across the world. So obviously now at Epik, we work with some of the biggest brands and IP to create premium digital merch and collectibles. So it all comes to around full story, as it usually does.
So that CS background, that positioned you to take advantage of this change, this technological revolution?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of part of the DNA, but I always kind of gravitated more along the business side of things, which is how I take on an operational role right now. But I mean, that curiosity in terms of tech and innovation and all that type of stuff, definitely, is part of what we do and part of who I am as well, in terms of the curiosity there. But yeah, don't ask me to do any coding or anything like that. I literally want to jump out a window or something. So, but definitely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, coding can be, me personally, I'm a software engineer, so I know far too well that when you get a bug and you're like, oh man, and it ends up being like a comma or like a misnamed variable, and you're like, I am an idiot. You definitely want to feel that. So that's a little bit of your background. Darren, you want to tell us a little? Yeah. You had alluded that, Darren, you got some crazy story to tell.
Crazy story. Well, no, I've been in the video game industry for most of my career. I actually got started in my career as an engineer at Nintendo, and I was there for 20 years. I ended up as a director there, and I worked on all sorts of things, from the creation of games to the game platforms from the Nintendo 64 through the Wii and the 3DS. And worked on the development of all the online services for all those platforms, including the eShop, and everything that you saw in the Wii when you first powered it up was something I worked on. Worked on things on Pokemon and lots of things. So 20 years is a long time in the video to stay at one company, but Nintendo was a wonderful place to be.
So you saw everything from the 64 to the GameCube to the Wii?
Well, actually, when I started, it was just sort of on the tail end of the NES, the original 8-bit NES, and I did a lot of work on that to try to. When I initially came to Nintendo, it was to develop an online game service. At the time in 1990, that was nothing. When online was text. CompuServe was online. If you ever remember that, it was just text-based system. And we had this vision to create this amazing system. It was quite visionary at the time. It actually had a graphical user interface where you had avatars that you would create your own image and walk around in this world. I mean, we carried around this idea for having avatars with your own image all the way up through Wii, where we actually made Mii's,
which I love.
Reality over so many years. We are trying to get that as a feature for Nintendo's players. But yeah, so you had a world that you could walk around in, that where you could chat with other players. It had multiplayer online gaming at the time. It had e-commerce with both physical and digital goods. It had even like Wikipedia at the time, but for games. This was something that, I mean, just when I look at it today, like, wow, that was really quite visionary for 1990, when at the time nobody was connecting to the internet. You had a modem. I worked on the development of the modem, the phone modem that attached to the NES. That it was a little bit too broad, too visionary for Nintendo at the time. So we actually didn't ever produce that on the NES, more than just taking the demo.
So there. 20 years of experience at Nintendo. Well, you know, it doesn't really get a better video game company. I'll challenge anybody to find a better company there. So you're working there, and it's funny that you started talking about these like icons or these character type things, because me growing up playing the Wii, I had probably 1,000 Miis, where it was just like a Donkey Kong replica, or it was like me, like it was just like Batman or something. And it's funny that you had this like passion, because my mind immediately goes to NFT world, like where you have this persona, you have this online character, and it's yours. You're that person. So your background in gaming, what led you to say, okay, it's time to get into the NFT space?
Well, it's interesting. So over that 20 years, I saw like that vision that originally originated when I first started there become a reality. So it was, we ended up having a multiplayer online game service. We had e-commerce. We had stuff that we never imagined was back in 1990, streaming video and social networks and things like that. So actually had connected all the dots, like, oh, well, this is it for games. So I actually semi-retired after that and started doing some consulting work. And when I was introduced to Epik through a good friend of mine, his name is Casey Pelkey. He's the VP of the general manager of Tetris. Tetris had been working, the Tetris and Epik have kind of a history together. I'm sure Gary will share this in our origin story, but Casey said, hey, you should really meet this team. They're doing something really interesting. And when I saw what was possible with NFTs, like, wow, there is some more you can do with games, so that this unlocks some really unique experience for players. And that's what got me really excited about it, was the team had a really great background, and the idea of bringing this new feeling of ownership of digital goods was really exciting for me. And so that's why I jumped in. That was in 2018.
So that was in 2018. So you've been working on Epik Prime since 2018. Gary, you've been around the same time span?
The company pretty much originated early 2018. Yeah, I mean, the origin story is pretty interesting. Darren kind of alluded to that. I mean, it's kind of funny because we kind of talked about Hawaii offline there before this interview started. And so we're fortunate enough to know a guy named Hank Rogers. Hank happens to be the co-creator of Tetris, right? So him and the Russian gentleman were the guys who created it. And the story of Tetris, everyone knows, still probably one of the most popular games in the world, right? Hugely successful. So, he has background in that, lots of licensing. It was a conversation actually our CEO Victor was having with Hank, and talking about kind of like these challenges in like kind of like licensing industry and things that deal with like heavy trust scenarios and contracts and stuff. And, being Victor himself as well, actually, he's been a computer guy a programmer since like the early 90s, big systems, lots of data, all that kind of thing, and followed blockchain. So kind of intuitively understood right away that like blockchain and smart contracts was essentially the perfect solution for this type of real world use case and challenges that we're being presented with, right? Like licensing is like a $280 billion global industry every single year. So, I mean, it's these types of challenges would basically disrupt an entire industry like that. So yeah, long story short, after speaking with Hank and kind of diagnosing like what this thing could be, this type of solution could be in the real world, it basically was the genesis and kickoff for Epik, and a lot of like the solution and like the thesis that we built this around still revolves around that, which is like IP and licensing and trust issues and creating new content and managing that. And then obviously NFT wave kind of picked up, and it kind of like added a little bit of a dimension to that in terms of like a consumer product standpoint aspect of it, but essentially the same thesis, and like it was always derived from that. So yeah, that was interesting.
So Epik started, its origins comes from one of the most popular games of all time, Tetris.
Yeah, pretty much over a conversation that sparked light bulbs. Yeah.
And one of the license, I think you said 280 billion, was that the number for licensing?
Yeah, and it's been growing at a steady clip. So yeah, licensing, as you know, we use it a lot. And if any of the audience and listeners hear the words licensors and licensing and all that stuff, it's just basically like, you know, when you got a Mickey Mouse thing and you're selling it, or Disney World and Nike, all that stuff, just taking like name brand stuff and you know, letting people use it on products and services and collecting money in return, right? So yeah, I mean, we all can understand brand affinity and name brand purchases. So that's licensing.
So licensing, that's basically this right to Mickey Mouse or whatever the licensing in. Can you touch on how Epik is positioned to kind of change how licensing works, this $280 billion industry?
Yeah, you know, and that's something, it's a good question. And, you know, we've been doing a lot of education focused like talks and workshops with industry people on both sides of the fence, right? So we're like, you know, we do a lot of the talks in like licensing industry, speaking to some of the biggest brands and IP owners. And then on the flip side of that, you know, on the distribution side of it, working with a lot of digital platforms and helping them understand like how they can incorporate IP and things into their digital strategies, essentially, right? Bottom line is helping people to understand more, but like that NFT is licensing, right? Like when you make a piece of digital art, that's your IP, that's your own creation. Now you can sell it, you can monetize it. So this idea of IP ownership is the same whether we're talking about the creator economy, which is something where you and I would make something as an example, or the big brands like Disney and Marvel, right? They all originated from the same thing, which is, you know, someone at some point in time created something, and through developing that and monetizing it, created a brand we recognize today, right? So if you take that back, everything is NFT. Everything in NFT is IP. It's all licensing. So then the next logical step is like, how do you use brands and IP to differentiate your products and NFTs, right? How do you increase sales or leverage that kind of name brand affinity? And yeah, so that's what we do. Long story short, but yeah, we also take that to the next step, which is like producing original content from that IP, right? So we work with IP, produce original content. We specialize in content crossovers, et cetera. And then from that, you have some brand new experience or some new content that you can create products and services around, namely NFTs.
How does Epik plan on really taking advantage of the ability to use NFTs as IP?
Epik is kind of unique in that in a couple different ways. And maybe I'll just back it up one step and just kind of give the audience a little bit of a you know, I mean, if I were to sum up what Epik and how we're different, it comes down to a few things, right? So we're primarily a B2B company, right? So we work with everyone, we collaborate, we grow the industry as a whole in terms of blockchain and mass adoption and lowering the frictions for mainstream adoption. And also kind of like this kind of spectrum of where digital platforms are between like mainstream AAA game companies to kind of like the crypto type of games, right? So over the last few years, you know, since our origin stories, we actually ended up creating a two-sided marketplace, essentially. So our business, we work with brands on one side, if you would visualize that, and then we work with games and platforms on the other side of that. So it's actually really difficult to build that because it's kind of like, yeah, you build one side of demand and you build another side. But with this relationship, we get access to things other people can't in terms of IP and all these types of things. So we have something to offer for everyone, meaning going back to like the mainstream and crypto comment, right? We have, for game platforms, we have access to IP, which is beneficial for them for new content creation, for obvious reasons for in-games. And then for, you know, brands and platforms, we give them an entire distribution network of product placement for their games and touch points to users, you know, in a huge numbers, right? So yeah, I mean, like I said, we built something that's two-sided marketplace, very tricky. And now after a few years, we have the largest enterprise blockchain ecosystem in the world. Actually, we work with over 300 game companies and over half of the top 25 games in the world. So with that, like I said, going back to the brand side, we bring mass adoption, right? Like within our network, like,
Could you say those numbers again? You ran through those numbers like they weren't a big deal. Could you run us back through those high level Epic Games numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we have a client network over 300 games in our, as clients, and within that we include over half of the top 25 game companies in the world. I think even just like in the last few weeks, if you follow our socials, we announced a couple of pretty cool NFT projects, within just a slew of like 4 or 5 weeks there. We did NFT drops with Asphalt 9. So Asphalt is under Gameloft, one of the most successful, car racing games ever, right? Like I think over 1 billion downloads in the franchise history. Second Life, we're doing something with them, putting branded content into there for a whole thematic universe in there that has an NFT component in there as well. So Second Life is a pioneer in like, social and VR type of things. And also like Garena Free Fire. So Free Fire is the #1 mobile game in the world. It has like 100 million plus daily active users.
That's a lot of people.
So, yeah, and kind of going back to like what I was saying about our what makes Epic unique is because we sit on a mountain of this distribution network, and then secondly, we're collaborative, so we can do things in an entire ecosystem, working with people in a non-competitive way, whether you're like other gaming, crypto, and collectible apps and marketplaces, etc. We work together. Actually, we're not competing with each other. So yeah, I mean that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I forgot what your question was after that.
I'm curious now on this. So you have this it's the top mobile game in the world, and you now have a partnership with them. I'm trying to visualize like the actual product, right? Do they come to you? So, or are they coming? Because you're business to business. They're the business in this conversation. Now, who is on the other side of that business?
It's a great question. So we have a really cool event happening with them. So we helped put together a collaboration where we're putting in Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike. So if anyone's EDM fans, they've been one of the top 1 or 2 ranked DJs in the world for like the past, like half a decade, right? So huge musician superstars, and we have a collaboration putting them into Garena Free Fire. So playable characters, experiences, etc. All the stuff that they usually do, skins, yada yada yada. Also like even like put in like a song production element out of that, so a custom theme song that they produced as part of the collaboration. And then of course, Epic being Epic and doing what we're doing, NFT based on the collaborations will be coming out and announced.
So that business, so these DJs specific in this example, the DJs are like, I want to be in that game, and I want to license my my persona, or for example, me, right?
Their brand.
Their brand. So I could come to you, Mac and Cheesy. I could come to you with my pink beanie and be like, I want to be in this video game, and then you would work with business to effectively create like an in-game NFT that was associated with my personal brand.
100%. That's exactly what it is. So now you take that to the step further and like thinking about like how NFTs play into this, and you can instinctually understand it could be a lot. It could be like Mac and Cheesy avatars and skins and actual digital merchandise that's available for sale inside these games. Like kind of like in-game experiences, unlocked features, levels, like all these things that you would do with regular content creation, but then add into it like the aspects of ownership and kind of like exclusivity based on certain prerequisites in order to engage in certain ways within the games and outside the games, collectability of it. So the list goes on. And
then I think this is something that people probably know like a little bit too well. Like for example, the game Fortnite, right? And how they have all these skins, and you'll see a skin of like John Wick, or you'll see a skin of these people. And I'm sure there's some sort of partnership there, just like outside of it. But imagine now it's your skin and it's directly associated with your personal brand. And instead of having like this central entity. It's really just you, and it's your verifiable product on their actual video game.
100%. You got it. That's licensing.
One of the things that Epik has the opportunity to do is to bring in audiences that aren't maybe not part of the normal NFT space. And I think that's partially because of the branding opportunities that you have. So like, how does getting brand deals allow you to reach an audience that normally isn't in the NFT space?
You just nailed it right there. Because it's that brand following, that affinity, right? So, I mean, if you are, like a follower of a certain type of brand or a music band or a celebrity or a consumer brand, and you can start to get that intersection across those different like audience groups, right? So like you may be playing in this say game, and out of that game, 10% like, hard rock, 10% like this movie, and like, these guys are anime fans and these guys whatever. So now you start like, you're basically dissecting these crosshairs of a type of audience, right? And then that's their following, and if you can start grabbing these audiences across all these things and putting it together, you're creating like your own network out of all these other networks, right? So I mean, it's pretty massive, actually.
It allows you to get these crypto curious people. That's kind of how I describe them. There's the crypto natives, and they'll be in the NFT platform. They're going to adopt it. But what gives you an opportunity to grow that moat, that user base, is to get those people that are poking around it, doing one or two Google searches, and how do you get them?
I love that. We had like someone pop up on our Twitter feed that we were super excited about, right? Like, so they flashed up that they picked up one of the NFTs off our Epik Prime marketplace website, and I think it was like a $7, like it was a low cost NFT, right? But they could go on, pay with a credit card, etc. So we removed some of that friction that you would normally do MetaMasking, getting into NFTs and all that stuff. And he was so stoked about it. Like he was tweeting about it. It's like, I got my first NFT. And like it may seem like insignificant for all of us that are really, like you said, crypto native, etc. But now all of a sudden, for that one person, he felt like he was part of this whole NFT conversation, this thing that's been taking over all the headlines. Now he's in the know. Like that simple little purchase to him was like opening up his mind to a whole different world. And we thought that was just so powerful, and we were happy to be involved with that, obviously. But yeah, that goes to what you're saying, which is bringing in new consumer audiences, bringing in people that are not the crypto natives, and opening up that proverbial mass adoption to get to the mainstream. Yes, 100%.
You briefly touched on it, but reducing that friction, that barrier to entry. When I initially got into NFTs, right, you had to buy token here, transfer it to a MetaMask, find a third-party service that could buy it. You had to shuffle through all this crap and figure out which one to buy. How is Epik reducing this friction for people to get into the NFT space?
Yeah, we're making it. That is our goal. But first of all, by working with AAA game companies who are trying to reach this mass adoption. So trying to get as many people in it as possible. Working with the largest producers. They may not even know they're getting an NFT. In some cases, it's a digital collectible. It's a digital item, and they come to our site. The game may reward the user with an NFT, and they come to our site and collect it and can view it and play around with it, or they come to our site epicprime.com into our marketplace and see, hey, there's a great collection of items like for Game Loft's Asphalt 9. We have a number of different NFTs they can buy. Pick it, add it to your cart, pay with a credit card. It's just that simple. It's what you would expect for any e-commerce transaction. You've
abstracted the layer of crypto, and now It just feels like you're buying it on eBay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You can also pay with crypto. So the people who do want to do that, we still connect to your MetaMask wallet if you want to, and you can pay in Ethereum.
And that's also even just on the marketplace side, right, Darren? I mean, that doesn't even go into like the main thing, which is like natively within games or experiences, people can just start interacting with NFTs and blockchain, items natively inside games, right? Whether or not they even leave that in-game experience or do anything, that's the kill shot, right? I mean, that'd be like, that's throwing like the touchdown right there, right? I mean, you're just getting like massive amounts of users in a behavior pattern that they're already adjusted to and used to, doing something that's already part of that experience that they're in there for. I mean, that's zero friction.
From a user's perspective, and not investment advice, but there is a way that you can actually get exposure to Epik. There's the Epik token. What are some of the tokenomics and the benefits of owning the Epik token?
Yeah, so Epik Prime is a loyalty reward like membership program. It grants access to better quality in-game and NFT items to its members and to Epik Prime's members, and they also get chances to win random prizes, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, anyone can qualify to become an Epik Prime member, and customers can choose to either purchase their Epik Prime membership, which is Epik tokens, through exchanges, etc., like just that's out there in crypto token world, and etc. And also just over time, different type of campaigns and ways that the tokens are going to be distributed with it throughout the ecosystem through partners and through things like that. But yeah, ultimately it starts as a membership reward, and they get their hands on it right now. We're available in a couple different places. We're not here to shill tokens, but yeah, you can look it up and find out where it's available.
The Metaverse solution, and then with like this business to business, Epik's almost becoming like a bridge for like a lot of different things, a lot of these big entities, and connecting the NFT world with the real world and other NFT worlds. And it seems exciting. I've said a bunch of times, Facebook just announced that they're going to invest like 50 million into Metaverse. So who knows what they're going to do. But like a lot of the Metaverse, my issues is like, I don't know who's going to win it. I don't know, like, being early is often the same as being wrong, because, another player might come into the space, but having the ability to do it across metaverses and now just like connect these worlds, that kind of solves that issue, or that quote unquote problem, because now it's metaverse agnostic, which is a funny term to say because it's this digital world, but at the end of the day, these digital worlds have they're unique in a sense. So the same way you could be in Asia or the United States or wherever it may be, you could be in an entirely different metaverse, and it's like a different location in this digital world. I mean, I love NFTs. The Incubator, we talk about NFTs like 24/7. Like we have a ton of degenerates in there who are just like honestly, during this interview, I probably missed a mint, and they're going to be like, "Oh, Austin, you missed a mint."
Oh, geez. Well, not if you're an Epik Prime member, you'd be reserved and get access to like the coolest stuff, and that'd be yours as a membership benefit.
So moral of the story: if I was an Epik Prime member, I could interview and mint simultaneously and just be a total degenerate.
Yeah, sure. We'll have to put that in our roadmap right there. Q4 launch degenerate strategies. And
Q4 roadmap. We need to make it so you can truly be a degenerate and make content while also minting NFTs.
Exactly.
This was an awesome conversation. We touched on everything from the beginning of Epik, the origin stories, and how that kind of came to fruition, where it's at right now, where it's going, the NFT community as a whole, and what intellectual property means for these products and the NFT gaming industry, and how it's going to kind of change how people interact with these digital worlds. And if you're not part of the NFT world yet, I suggest you start learning about it. And even if you're not going to put a substantial amount, whether it's $7, $10, I always say the best way to learn about something is to get skin in the game. And that way, what you thought was a black box will soon and very clearly become a not black box, and it'll be a lot more simple than you think. And now when you hear these terms, NFT, JPEGs, whatever people call them, you'll then have an understanding. And what that means is it'll give you the opportunity to learn about these things in the future and then take advantage of these platforms that are popping up and changing how people interact across these platforms. So Darren and Gary, this was an awesome conversation. I appreciate you for hopping on the incubator. I anticipate that we're going to be having, conversations along the road as you guys grow, as this channel grows, and the NFT space at large in crypto becomes more and more robust.
Great. It was great being here. Thanks a lot, Austin.
Yeah, very exciting stuff ahead for you as well, and the show and the program. So thanks for having us on. It was a real pleasure.
Hell yeah. All right, everybody. So if you are new to this channel, we do interviews about every week. We actively make videos about helping people learn about crypto. So, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, whatever it may be. And if you're not part of the Incubator Discord, I suggest you join that and we'll chat in there. Otherwise, as always, let's keep it moving. Peace.